Hello. Good evening, everybody. Thank you very much for coming to join us for this virtual tasting of ours, Mackmyra Swedish whiskey virtual tasting. I hope everyone's got some whiskies ready in front of them. I know I do, and raring to go. Coming to you this time from a very special location, not where my colleague Matt and I are sitting now, quite average locations you might be able to see, but we do have a special guest coming to join us. The world's first gravity-assisted distillery, which, if anyone's new to Mackmyra, you can see here. We called it the Gravity Distillery. Gravity-assisted production begins at the top and then works its way down each floor, one after the next. Some lovely footage. It is an absolutely spectacular place to be, and we'll tell you all about it.
Stunning.
Different levels. We go down from mashing, fermentation, distillation, and show you how things happen in a gravity-assisted distillery. As I mentioned, first of its kind. I'm Richard McKeon, brand ambassador in the UK for Mackmyra. I'm joined by my colleague Matt. Hello, Matt.
Hi guys, how's everybody doing? I hope you guys are all having a great night, and welcome to the really cool, awesome show that we've got live streaming from Gravity Distillery up in Gävle. Should we introduce Fred?
Yeah, I think we should. So our special guest is our colleague Fred over in Gävle, where the distillery is actually located now. So if we can bring Fred in. There we go.
Hi Fred, how are you?
Hi, greetings from Sweden. I'm doing great. It's an honor for me to be a part of the show tonight, and we are actually sending live now from the top of the distillery at 35 meters up. We have lovely weather here. The sun is shining, the sky is blue, and just waiting for trying some real good drams here in the next hour.
Lovely. We couldn't have done better with that weather.
So it's great.
Yeah. Nice.
It's wonderful up here, and it's going to be real nice to show you the different levels of the distillery tonight, and from the top,
looks like
where we actually start the production, will continue downstairs with the mashing as well as the pot stills.
Perfect. Fred, it looks like you got a wonderful view there from the sky bar.
Yeah, it's beautiful up here. I don't know how far we can see, but it's a long way, and days like this, it's wonderful to be up here.
Beautiful. Oh, that's such a beautiful shot. So the sunset looks beautiful up in Gävle tonight.
So Fred, how high up are you in the air now?
Approximately 35 meters, 9th floor.
That's definitely high. I think that's got to be the tallest distillery around. Yeah, perfect. Well,
yeah, it's probably the tallest one in the world.
Yeah,
so far. Yeah.
So brilliant. So while we've got the views and we've got Fred there, I'll just explain to everyone that's joining us how the tasting's going to work. Hopefully everyone's got some whiskey in front of them. If they don't, perhaps you've just come along because you'd like to have a look and you do what we're doing. But for those that do have some of our whiskey there and a glass, we'll be going one whiskey at a time, as you might expect. No need to pour the entire 50 ml into one glass if you don't want to. What I often do is just pour a small amount, and then I can come back later on and try other bits once I've learned a bit more about it. Maybe we'll do a side-by-side. So we'll be starting off with Brooks Whisky, the blue labeled bottle that you've got. Oh, sorry, no, we're starting off with Mac, I think. Are we Mac? Which way?
That's why we're starting off with Mac upstairs just to celebrate the Gravity Distillery, and then we'll be moving on to Brooks.
Of course we are. Yeah, so Mac first, then Brooks Whisky, then Svensk Cognac, and Svensk Rook at the end we'll be doing. So just before, so if you have received a 5th dram in the pack, have that to one side. I'll tell you a little bit about it at the end as we close, just so that you've got some info for it. But it's the 4 from the box that we're going through this evening. One announcement to make: this is going to be the last virtual show that we do for some time. I'm not sure when they might come back in the run up to Christmas. It might be just afterwards, we don't know. But for the time being, this will be it. So what we wanted to do was go out with a bang and show you. Get us over to Sweden, and we've got colleagues helping us there. And Matt, I'll just to give Matt a quick shout out. He's been working behind the scenes for probably nearly 2 years now, doing a lot of work with our colleague Carl, directing the shows and getting things ready. So I wanted to invite him along this evening so that he could get his face on the screen, and I could have glass of whiskey with him, hopefully, and we can enjoy each other's company for a bit. So,
nice to be in front of the screen for a change and not being in the background. So
it's wonderful to look upon your handsome face, Matt. So
thanks, man.
So before we start, what we'll do, we'll go through and we'll keep this bit as brief as possible, but go through a bit of a history and background into Mackmyra, and then when we get to each whiskey, we'll expand on that background a bit, just so that we can get to the whiskey a bit faster than we did 2 years ago when we started, and we took far too long to get to it. So the running order I've gone through, so we go through things one by one. If anyone's got a glass of water to hand, always a good idea, something to sit between whiskies. Please drink responsibly and clean the palate a little bit, and between which we go. Matt, do we have, before I go into the history, any announcements to make? Anything coming up? Any deals?
Yeah, we do, guys. We've got a really, really nice deal happening for you guys tonight, and it's probably the last offer we'll be doing for the show. So it's a spectacular offer. We're going to give you 40% off any core range bottle once you buy a full seasonal 70 CL bottle from us. So that's Johannson, that is Bjorkside or Limousin. And as a freebie, you're going to be throwing in 4 randomly chosen miniatures before we dispatch that delivery. So that is exclusively for the UK and EU market, for people outside of Sweden. So guys, that's going to be running until about Sunday. So get on it before it's gone. It's going to make an excellent present or wonderful way to add something to your collection.
Yeah, lovely. And well, I think if people could comment, if we haven't started already, I haven't actually kept much of an eye on that just yet. So I can see,
we've got Tom.
That's Tom of Tom and Laura. They're big, long-time supporters of Mackmyra since we started doing these shows and things as well. And Bully, great to have you back as well, Bully. Always
around. And then we've got Keith as well. Hi, Keith. How you doing?
Good evening, Keith. Yeah, wonderful. So, right. So comment as we go. Any questions you have? Any thoughts, queries? Do you like Matt's hat? Do you like his glasses? Do you think I could do this? Has anyone got any birthday shout outs or something like that? Be happy to give you a little birthday call. And yeah, so I'd say before going into the history, I think if people could pour perhaps a little bit of Mac into their glass, and we'll have a little nose and perhaps a little take if we start. But before we get into that bit, it would be lovely if we could see Fred perhaps take us around the sky bar a bit and give us a little tour of the top floor. Is that okay? Fred, if you could give us a little walk around. Sorry, I appreciate you're outside, so it might not be very good audio for you there, but if you could take us around the sky bar.
Of course. Yeah, I will take a short tour here at the top of the distillery. There is a little bit delayed in the sound, but hopefully when we get inside the distillery, the Wi-Fi will be a little bit better. But right here at the balcony, we have a wonderful view. I will take the camera and show you around a little bit.
Yeah, that does look pretty good, though. That does look pretty good. A little bit static.
Sand ridge created. It's a sand ridge created during the ice era, and it's from that sand ridge we actually take our water that we use when we produce our new make and do the whiskey. And of course, if you continue and just look around the corner, you can see downtown Gävle. You can see the harbor and the Baltic Sea that's coming in here. So it's a wonderful view up here.
Stunning.
And continue inside, we have our sky bar. Now it might be changing a little bit, jumping from 4G to Wi-Fi. But up here at the sky bar, this is a place where we have a lot of our tasting
experience. I think that's the jump from 4G to Wi-Fi there. Which,
that's the jump to 4G to Wi-Fi. There we're back. There we go.
Happy the game.
So that's a short view of the top floor, and I will move down to the mash tuns and continue from there. So I leave it to you, Richard and Matt.
Perfect. We'll see you in the next one, Fred. Cheers, bud. All right, guys. So we're on to Mac now. This is our artisanal whiskey that we created specifically for the bar industry and stuff. The bottle is completely different. So it's a nice long neck available for the slides and saloon for the bar. It's a beautiful little bourbon whiskey that we've done. It's about 4 years old, Rich, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it started there, but I think each batch got a little bit older. So yeah, but when it first came out, it was because we were trying to get something out. Not as quickly as we could in terms of rushing, but we wanted something that would be good for the market as soon as possible, because this is the first whiskey distilled entirely at the Gravity Distillery. So 2014, 2015, I think this was launched, given that we started in the Gravity Distillery.
Yeah. 2011, yeah, that's correct. I mean, and before that, I mean, obviously, as everyone knows, and if it's the first time you guys are joining us, we actually started off in what we call the Brooks Distillery, which is just down the road from the actual Gravity Distillery itself. And we started off in 1999 when we first started brewing our first distillation. And this was founded by 9 members who had a dream of making the first Swedish single malt whiskey. Roll forward to 2022. We are now running full production with a forest warehouse where you can store your casks and all your goodies, and it's an amazing place, a little whiskey village with a bistro. So it's an ideal place to go for any avid whiskey fan, to be honest with you.
And of course, the weather is exactly as it is today, all year round there as well, Matt.
Yeah. Well, I suppose, yeah. Well, in the summer months, it's lighter and more pleasant, I guess. But yeah, I mean, like, it's always a great place to go visit, whether it's winter or summer. It's just an amazing little place to go see, and it's worth your while and worth the trip up there. Rich, anything more about the Mac that you want to have a chat about or touch on, my boy?
Yeah, I think I promised a little overview of sort of history. I do like a little. I'll go through some bullet points and then we can expand on some stuff. So as Matt mentioned, production began December 1999. Our founders have been on a skiing trip the year before and thought, why is nobody making whiskey in Sweden? There's a huge appetite and a lot of enthusiasm and passion for whiskey in Sweden, but nobody had actually, was making any single malt. So they decided they wanted to start doing it. And, a year later, and a few obviously hoops to jump through and applications to do, everything began. First 3 years in a small pilot distillery and other parts of production, malting and peating, being in a series of founders' gardens. When one neighbour complained, is what I think at least, moved house of the next. The founders lived in 2002, moved into our first proper distillery, the Brooks Distillery, from which our second whiskey takes its name, which is situated where Mackmyra actually is. It is a real place. It's not just us trying to sound Scottish. It's a place in Sweden. It's about 15 kilometers or so, I think, away from Gävle, where we are now, or the Gravity Distillery. And then 2011, I think construction finished, and 2012 production began. It's something around there. We moved into the Gravity Distillery that we purpose built ourselves and designed. And it's filled with bits of technology we'll tell you about in a moment, where we capture heat here and send it there. And so almost no energy whatsoever. The teeniest, tiniest, imperceptible bit, I think, may escape, but it's the greenest distillery I think that I've seen built in recent years. I know there's one in Scotland in particular that's had some good for it as well. But
that's probably the reason why we got the award from a sustainable distillery in 2021, correct?
That's it. Yeah. Well, yeah. In the world category, we did. Yeah. Which is an enormous deal when you think about the amount of distilleries there are now around the world making single malt as well. So, so moved into Gravity Distillery, which is where we're producing now. We've got lots of different places where we mature our whiskey. The one that we're most known for, amongst those who have come across it before and tried our whiskey, is the Board Horse, like pronounced Board Horse, but it looks like Bodas to a simple Englishman who can't speak foreign languages very well, as I can't. But yeah, Board Horse is where it's 99% of our stock probably is down there. It's 50 meters underground in a big iron ore mine that we've converted. So shafts go a good 400 feet or 400 meters deep. We're in that top layer, but a very, very cool place to mature your whiskey. Other places as well that I would say are equally as cool. We've got one on top of a mountain, a few thousand feet up in the air, a little small sky lounge where you can have a drink and a coffee, and then if you've been drinking responsibly, ski back down or get the ski lift. Imagine it, the ski lift most used down in all of Europe, is what I always think, because there must be people out there having a good time. And then we've got a number of others satellite around, but there's one on a little island in the archipelago that makes up Stockholm as well. That was this big rock that's been hollowed out years ago by the Swedish Navy, and used to store torpedoes and munitions and things in there, which we now have filled with our casks. So if you own a 30-litre cask with us and buy one, you can store it in that island and fly into Stockholm, get a little boat bus across to the island, and go and have a little taste of your cask and visit the cask, read it a book or a poem or whatever. We've got 3 different. Well, actually, now I say that launching in, we've The main range we're going to look at this evening that I'll focus on now is the core range. So, and all 4 of which we're going to try tonight. I think, Matt, is there anything I've missed off there that we should talk about immediately?
Mate, I don't think so. I don't think so. I mean, I think we've done 200 shows plus, and I think we've spoken so much history to people that I think they actually know us fairly well. But if there's any more else information or history you guys want to go get hold of us, contact us on our social media platforms, contact us at the website. We're always there willing to help you guys out with the history, or if you guys have any questions, please drop us an email and get hold of us on our social media platforms.
Yeah, perfect.
Right.
Well, what do we think about Matt? Because that's, I think, put people in their glass a moment now, and let us know in the comments what you think. If you've hopefully people have had a little taste and a little nose as we've gone. For me, this gives away, to me at least, the casks that has been matured in. So lots of vanillas and caramels and gentle spices and stuff. Which I think the spice perhaps comes from our spirit profile as much as it does the cask, but heaps of vanilla and caramels, and then orchard fruits as well, which again is a spirit one for us. But I think the pear and apple that I usually find in various whiskies of ours, I get a really, really rich pear drips and stuff with this one.
Yeah, I agree with you, and I mean it's a perfect jam on its own as a mix. I mean, it's specifically made as an artisanal mixing cocktail drink. So yeah, it's an amazing little, I would say, a little bourbon finish to that, Rich. You know, talking about this vanilla fudge notes and all that kind of jazz. I think it's a really great alternative to your usual whiskey. It's an everyday kind of whiskey for me at the end of the day.
Yeah, I think this is about 40% ABV, which for anyone newer into whiskey that might be joining us this evening, whiskey needs to be 40% as a minimum. I think this has got a lot of complexity for something that isn't, high up in the ABVs. This has got a lot of balance and complexity to it. For a whiskey that is our sort of the entry into our range, and at 40%, I think it is an impressive track. I've got some comments I see coming in. A couple of things there from Connor.
There's our old friend Connor. Connor, long time no see, boy. Welcome. We've got some more people saying hi. There we go. All over the world. Great to see. Hi, Limerick, Jeff. Hi, welcome.
Oh, we've got people from all over Europe.
There we go. So, Dirk as well, and we have
Laura as well. Yeah.
Really appreciate it.
That's interesting from Dirk, I think, there, Matt, as well, saying amazing start smooth, but a strong finish. Nice. I think it does have a lingering finish. I think that's, if you put American oak into the mix in most things, and this has been, American oak in this, that does have, I think it adds a bit of the texture to it. Almost to me, I think it tends to, that texture certainly helps with making the finish a little bit longer and stronger. I think as Dirk described it there. Yeah. A very sweet harmony as well, we just chipped in with. So very good. Cheers, everyone. Or school. Sorry.
Right. Rich, have a sip there. Right. Looks like Fred is ready for us at the mash tun. I'm going to bring Fred back up. Hey, Fred, how you doing, man?
Well, now I'm down to the mash tun. It will be a little bit of echo here, but hopefully you will hear me quite good anyway. I heard you talked about the Mac, and I think it's a wonderful whiskey. And as you said, Matt, it's a standard whiskey that works every day. And one of my favorite things to do with the Mac is adding like 5 centiliters of Mac and then 1 or 2 centiliters of maple syrup together with some sea salt on top of that. Stir it around, and you have a wonderful little drink, almost like a butterscotch like experience. That's at least my mother-in-law loved that one. My mother.
I'm definitely going to go try that out this weekend when I got some time to do so. Fred, tell us a little bit more about which level we're on now.
Well, right now we are at the mash tun. I think we can't give away all of the distillery at once. So hopefully we'll do some other shows like this later on this year, and then we will show the steps behind between the Sky Bar and the mash tun, which is our little mill, as well as one of what I think quite exciting rooms at the distillery regarding taking care of energy. But I say that as a little cliffhanger to the next show. So right now I'm here at the mash tun, and each batch we are doing here, we always start with 1,500 kilos of malt. If it's a smoky recipe, we have 350 kilos of the 1,500 that is smoked malt. The extra smoky recipe, 700 kilos of smoked malt, but the total amount is always 1,500 kilos. After crushing it in our little mill, it comes here in the mash tun, where we add at the first step 6,600 liters of water, and then in this next step 2,800 liters. We do the mashing process in 2 steps, first with 65 degrees hot water, and then with 95 degrees hot water, in order to extract all the starch and so on, that we can move on to the fermentation tanks. So I have my colleague David here is helping me with the camera. So I will turn on the light into the mash pan and open up the lid so you can look down and see how it looks like. It's like a giant KitchenAid machine.
Oh, good. This is going to be an amazing surprise to look at.
I don't know. Well, you can see how it looks like. You can see the arms in there, and here is where we mix the malt as well with the water, and it takes approximately 4 hours to do this. And when we're done here, we have 8,200 liters of wort that we will move on to the fermentation tanks, and the rest of the malt, or the grist, is now called draft, and that we are sending off, and it will become biogas. So we're taking care of it so that we don't leave any waste at all, which is very important to us. And as I heard Richard mention, that we're working very hard in order to save energy, and I would say we are approximately 40 to 50% more energy efficient than a conventional built horizontal distillery. And that's because we're using gravity force, as well as we're using the heat and the cold that we get in different part of the process when we produce our spirit. So we were actually appointed in 2021. We were appointed the most sustainable distillery in the world, and that's something we are very proud of.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that, like, I think, in this day and age, with the way the environment's going, I think that's, leads us ahead, and it's great to see other distilleries taking steps to do that kind of thing going forward. So it's great for the industry, and I think it's the right way to go with things. So it's really proud to be part of Mackmyra and being a leader in that front.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, here. There's one bit that you mentioned there, Fred, about where the draft goes, where the physical pressure is left after we've drained it and sent the water. That's something that people, when I do tastings, if virtual or in person, or at a club or a group, wherever I might be, that they find very fascinating that we take that draft and it doesn't go off into animal feed as it might do.
I would say, for me, I really love animals, and it would be great if we could send it off as animal feed as well. And like a dream should be a farmer that grew the barley. He had animals, so it can be like a circle of everything. But in Sweden, we have different rules and regulations that we have to follow in order to send off the draft to farmers as animal food. We should be an animal food producer, which should acquire another 50 or so different kind of permits and stuff. So we stick to making whiskey.
Yeah, I think we're pretty good at doing that, to be fair. All right, Fred, we're going to cut over to doing the brooks and let you get ready for the next level. So we'll see you at the next stage of the distillery, pal.
Yeah. We jump down to the pot stills.
All right, see you later at the pot stills. All right, Rich. So we're on to basically one of our what do we used to call this? The breakfast whiskey.
Breakfast whiskey, yeah, breakfast. But a quick disclaimer: just we're not encouraging people to have of breakfast, but as an accompaniment or alongside, if you're going to the races that day, you're flying off somewhere, or it's some sort of cause to celebrate, then yeah, a little glass in the morning. This is one of the reasons we call it breakfast, is because you could have it and you wouldn't need a nap come midday or something like that. I don't know, maybe me in my mid-30s, I'm thinking about that. But it's not going to ruin your day having it early on. I think it's very light, approachable. For something that's very light and approachable, which are two words that I'm always cautious about when I hear, it has a huge amount of complexity to it and balance, again, similar to what we described with the Mac.
Laura says, but you know we do. Nice one, Laura. All right, guys. So the Brooks whiskey is basically named after our first distillery called the Brooks Distillery, and it basically next to the Simon, this was paying homage to our first thing. Funny enough, talking about that, when the Gravity Distillery was actually built, there is an actual Brooks bottle of whiskey that was actually put into the foundation of the distillery itself. So we have a history built into that. So we've actually taken a Brooks whiskey bottle and actually it's in the foundations of the new distillery. So we were still carrying along our tradition, a bit of our history along with the new distillery at Gravity and at the Whiskey Village in Yevla. So yeah, I mean, Rich, tasting note wise, I mean, this is one of the most beautiful drams I've ever had in my life. And I've had quite a few over the last couple of years. But yeah, just the lightness of how, I mean, the banoffee toffee kind of experience you get off it, the vanilla, it's just some really amazing tasting notes on that and nosing notes on that. What do you think of, personally, what do you think of it, Rich? I mean, where does that sit with you? I mean, your collection behind there kind of calls you more of an expert, and unfortunately, I'm still in the office today, so yeah.
No, it's yeah. My wife wishes it was a green screen or a Zoom background, but unfortunately, we reeled it. So I got something on it. I've been drinking this for probably a year or so before I even joined Mackmyra at the start of 2020, and somehow I don't know what it is. If I've been eating something different today, or what, I found a bit of meatiness on the nose that I didn't usually get. So initially, I got what I always do, which is sort of a foam banana penny sweets and some milk chocolate maybe. So, but then it's more like a sort of like a savoury milk chocolate now. So there's something meaty to it that I haven't had before. And this is a fresh glass as well, by the way. This is it's unspoiled. It's about as sort of as easy a nose as I've ever experienced. I think I can get 3-4 things and I can't quite put the word to on the nose, which is part of my a standard thing for me, not being able to name everything that I get. But I've always absolutely loved this. This is one of the whiskies that in the early days of learning about Swedish whiskey, actually in its entirety, that got me into it in a big way.
Yeah, I mean, and at 46.1 ABV, I mean, it's not gonna.
Oh, this one's a bit less, sorry, mate. Yeah, 41.4. This one.
41.4. Oh, yeah, it's the new vintage one that I'm thinking about here. So yeah, I mean, it's a really light, accessible dram, and I think it as for me, well, personally, I find it like a really everyday kind of drinking dram, and it's something like if you've never experienced Swedish single malt whiskey, I think this is a great starting point for any avid whiskey fan or any avid whiskey collector and somebody who's just looking for something different in their collection. So yeah, Rich, while you're enjoying that, I am taking a look. I see the boys are almost at the stalls.
Before we jump off, Matt, just if we have a couple look at ABBA fan 09. I hope that isn't somebody born in 09 because that wouldn't be appropriate whatsoever. A slight sweet taste in this with butterscotch. I wanted to highlight that because butterscotch is one of the things that I find on the palate with this for sure, and I haven't quite got there yet. Butterscotch almost every single time without a fail I can find some butterscotch to it, and also it pops up in other expressions of ours as well. Brilliant. Right. Well, yes.
So Rich, Laura wants to find out, can you give us some hints about where the wallpaper came from?
Well, you're welcome to have it, Laura, if you send me your details. I moved into this house 8 weeks ago or so, about 6 weeks before my wife and I had our first baby. So we haven't had any chance to actually take any wallpaper down yet and put ours up. So if you send us your details, perhaps I can get it in the post to you. We'll see. Yeah. One of these before GCSE results came out today, teacher not student. Oh, okay. So imagine, have you got parents phoning you up? Is that something that happens? I hope it was not too bad a day, Laura, and I'm glad at least you can finish the day with a couple of whiskies in the evening. That's not too bad, I hope. Yeah.
There we go. Right, Richard. So are we ready to take into the stalls?
Let's do it. Yeah.
All right. Fred, welcome back. Where are we now, my friend?
Look at that
well,
view.
Right now I'm at our pot stills. These pot stills I got beside me here, they are special made for us, made by Foresight, Scotland. When we started out in 1999, the first pot stills, they were 100 liters in size. They have grown a little bit through the years. So we got our wash still that's 10,000 liters today, and we got our spirit pot still that's 8,000 liters today. So inside here, it's actually the magic of distilling happening here at the Gravity Distillery. And I will soon move down to our spirit safe and talk a little bit more about the whiskey that we are trying together down there. So just will give you a short view of our pot stills.
Perfect.
Because
Fred,
what
what are the names of those stills? I believe we've given them some
the name of stills.
Yeah, what are the name of the stills and which one's which?
Actually, we don't have any name on our stills.
Oh, I thought we had a big one and a little one. Weren't they? Was that a box?
We got the big one and we got the small one, but I know a lot of distilleries the name the pot stills. I visited the distillery just a couple of weeks ago, and they named them after the guy who started his mother-in-law. But in our name, we got the big one and we got the small one.
Yeah, well, I think that's fun enough, and it's a very literal thing as well. It's very Swedish, so yeah, a very authentic thing. Yeah, and you say Forsyth as well. So anyone that's watching that hasn't heard of Forsyth before, Forsyth are the foremost copper workers, still makers in all of Scotland. You have to go if you want to get something from them now. You have to go on an extraordinarily long waiting list to be able to get.
I'm pretty sure they're tons busy. I mean, there's so many distilleries popping up globally. So yeah, I'm pretty sure everyone's on a waiting list for one of those.
They are. When I first started with Mackmyra and I discovered that we had stills from Forsyth, I felt very good about that, being able to tell people, because people that know who Forsyths are will hear that name. They associate it with top quality, which is I think very good to have. I've just seen Melvin say, Matt, that Brooks whiskey is a dangerous one, which I think
I think it is. It's definitely one of those ones you need to watch. It's really good, easy sipping, and can catch up to you very quickly. But it's not a bad hangover from experience. I'm just saying.
Yeah, brilliant. Fred, while we have you there, how often are we running the stills over so much? I appreciate.
One more time, please. It's kind of noisy in here, so please the question one more time.
Sorry. Yes. Yeah. We're just wondering, how often we might run the stills. If is it once every few days? Is it what?
Well, the stills are running. Actually, next week we are moving up to 2 shifts, which is twice a day. So we're doing 2 batches a day. We are just got back from summer and holidays, and so right now this week we have run 1 shift, which is like 1 distill a day, and from the next week we start with mashing as well as start the fermentation tanks, and the week after that we will run 2 distills a day, and that will be approximately 1,600 liters of new make.
Brilliant. Yeah, perfect.
That's rather impressive.
More and more, if you ask me. Let's keep making this stuff. Yeah.
All right, Rich. So while Fred gets down to the next one, what is the next dram, Max? What are we doing?
Next dram, yeah. Hang on a sec. Let me just see this last bit off. Cool. Who was it further up? I think Jacques. Score with a circle on the A. If you very good. That's I have to do that constantly. Just explain. Or I Google it and then copy the A with a circle and put it back in. If I'm talking to someone in Sweden, I'm trying to be authentic. But cheers. I'll just put this away.
Skull. And Laura, possibly we could be looking at something like that in the future. Nice, interesting idea. But guys, we're going to move over onto Svensk Ek, Swedish Oak, which is our next dram coming up. And Richard, this is probably our flagship whiskey.
I think so. Yeah, certainly is. I think when we started the first few years, maybe not the first years, but initially, so we wanted everything to be as Swedish as possible. That has stayed true throughout. But we use all the ingredients we use are Swedish. So the water, the yeast, the barley, all Swedish. And one of the other ways of making things as Swedish as possible was an ambition of only using Swedish oak casks, so that we could. Most of the industry is 90%, maybe even more than that now, is ex-bourbon casks, from America. It's got its own story behind it now, but we wanted to use everything as Swedish oak, but they found out rather quickly that Swedish oak, when you're maturing anything for a long period of time, or even medium length of time, it can be far too powerful. It's filled with properties and characteristics that, whilst delicious, you don't want the whiskey in there for too long because it overpowers and cooks the wood. So in this, we use all of this whiskey's life begins maturing in ex-bourbon casks, and then for the last 18 months. We take 10%, represented on the front of the box, you can see here. We take 10% out of those ex-bourbon casks, put it into charred and new Swedish oak casks for 18 months, and then put them back together at the end of that period to marry and then go into bottling. Because what we're trying to achieve here, and throughout any of our whiskies, I've mentioned balance twice with these first two, that is something that complexity and balance of flavour is something that is one of our main objectives of things. And anything longer than 18 months or anything higher in terms of percentage than 10%, it underwooded basically. So this was the sweet spot that we found out through trial and error. Our spirit character would be, if you try the new make and you try various whiskey styles, in short and brief would be orchard fruits, warming spices, and a sort of a herbal, herbaceous, vegetal sort of note, bringing the sweet spice together.
That spice itself, that comes from the actual Swedish oak. It's quite a nice little spiciness to it, isn't it?
Yeah, in this one in particular, with that, there you go, Melvin, lovely, and thank you for the support as well. Really appreciate it. This has got a lot more wood to it than the first two, so I would describe this as far more robust. It's fruity, but it's a different sort of. So the orchard fruits, the apples and pears that you might have found, and I always find on the first two, I think those apples and pears are present here, but I always describe that the Swedish oak effect having like a cooking the impact. Sorry, Swedish oak having like a cooking effect on those fruits. So the apple becomes like apple pie, and then there's also some cinnamon, which goes in the mix with apple pie, and the pear becomes like a baked pear, a brown pear. And if you could find banana, as I often can on Brooks whiskey, on this banana bit, it's like a browned, caramelized banana, so a cooking effect on them. And then the pepper and if anyone's moved on to the palate on this, I think one of the biggest differences between this and the first two is a bit more pepper, a bit more spice, and a bit of body on the tongue as well.
Yeah. And just getting to one of the comments over here that I see, Dirk, I take it that you're probably from Holland. Ek meaning oak in Swedish, yes. So not meaning myself or I or you, but ek, which means Swedish oak. Or
if anyone wants to have a guess at what svensk means as well, please chuck it in the chat. You can have a go. No points, but let's see. I think I've just seen a comment from Jeff. Matt, which looks like he's showing off that he's got the A with the circle on his keyboard.
Well, there we go, Jeff. Spot on. That's exactly how we do it in Sweden. Well done.
Cool.
All right, score. Well, guys, I mean, the Swedish oak. I mean, Richard, it's kind of a strange little story that how we actually came about the Swedish oak. I mean, shipbuilding back in the day was done by wooden ships and wooden galleons. So this is kind of how Sweden got the whole Swedish oak. I mean, it was an acorn imported from the Swedish king. I'm sorry, the French king, if I'm not mistaken, that we brought over. The Swedish king wanted these oak trees grown. Unfortunately, due to the climate, it took a little bit longer than a few years, a couple of years, but. Once getting into steel shipyard building and all that kind of stuff, we were left with how many? A couple of hundred thousands of these trees.
I think two to 300,000 oak trees were planted over a 10-year period, and 30 years after they began, or 30 years after they were planted, to build ships with in the 1830s or so. The technology for wooden ships began to become obsolete with the introduction of ironclad vessels sailing the seas. So and you had to wait 120 years before these trees were ready to be harvested. So I think the story goes, and I don't know, I like to think there's some truth in it, but sometime in the 1970s and 1980s, a message was sent to Swedish naval high command to say, oh, we've got your trees ready for your ships. Where would you like it sent? And I think that's hilarious if it is the case.
Yeah. And lucky for us, they did grow there, so we had access to all these beautiful oak trees in Sweden itself. And hey, personally, we've actually got a really, really nice, distinct Swedish flavored finished cask.
Yeah. Lovely. So let us know what you think in the comments as well. If people moved on to this.
Well, Tom wants to know if there's any favorite snacks to go with the whiskey. What would you recommend?
Matt, have you got anything though that being a South African man, biltong or druze or?
Well, definitely. Especially with the spiciness and the pepperiness of the Swedish oak itself. Yeah, any dry cure kind of meats for me goes really well. Biltong, jerky, that kind of thing. So I really do like that. But I also know funny enough, I went to Spain the other day and found a bottle of our whiskey somewhere floating about, and I actually had a dram with some pinchos. It actually went down really, really nicely as a treat, quite surprising.
Right.
Really, really pairs well with that. Obviously, any kind of bread kind of does go well with the Svensk itself, and just balances it really nicely out.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, I think for me, meats, dried, cured meats, cheese. Of almost any type, I'd eat it all, and chocolates as well. Sometimes little, a caramel chew, small little chocolates and things you can nibble on with each sip. It's very difficult, I think, to match whiskey with a plate of food. It needs to be a nibbling thing.
A nibbling thing. So Dirk's obviously jumped the gun. He's he's into pretzels. So yeah, definitely pretzels would be the way to go about it.
Yeah, cool. Yeah,
very Con good. From Paul. Con, thanks for joining us, mate. Nice to have you on board.
Yeah.
Goed. Ek baie goed. Meneer, lekker om te ontmoet. Hou van die show. Basically, South Africa. Yeah, from all the way from South Africa. So we've got quite a smorgasbord of people joining us tonight, which is quite nice. Dirk's smooth, smoky taste, not as strong as that's very impressive. Very impressive. That's great. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
Dirk, if you're still on Svensk here and you're getting some smoke from it, that will be from the heavily charred casks that we've used. So I think quite often I think 1 in every 3 or 4 tastings I do, perhaps somebody asks if there's some peated whiskey in Svensk, and the answer is no. But the casks are so heavily charred that you can get a bit of smoke. So not peat per se, but smoke as you described.
More like a charriness, a woody charriness.
Yeah, like a chewy smoke or something to it. Yeah.
And yes, Aberfan, Svensk meaning Swedish. That's correct.
But I knew Aberfan would have something. For that, sure.
Definitely knew that. Yeah. All right, guys. While we're drawing the dram, I'm going to bring Fred up. Fred is now at the spirits. Dave, Fred, where are we?
Well, as you said, I'm now at the Spirit Safe, and here is actually where the distillers work, and I'm very proud to say that we are. Even if the distillery is very modern, a lot of things is automized, we still produce the whiskey with the highest regard for the whiskey traditions. And also, when we do the cut between the head and heart and tail, we are actually using our noses, no measuring or anything. The human nose decides when it's time to do the cut and bring out the heart that's soon will end up on the cask. So this is actually the place where our distiller works. And as you can see behind me here is our Spirit Safe, and the distillers, they work here using tasting glasses. They fill them, they sniff on them, and when they are, we always 2 guys at the same time working here in order to be giving second opinion, and when we both agree that now it's time to do the cut, we move this lever here and redirect the spirit. The head, the tail is going down into the intermediate tank where it's mixed with a spirit from the wash still and go back into the spirit pot still. But in the middle tank, we saved the heart, stirred it around in order to level out the alcohol level in all of it. Yeah. And when we're done, it ends up with a clear liquor that's like 70% strong alcohol. After that, we take it down in the basement and dilute it with the same water as we start out with, the water from this old sand ridge, and we dilute it down to 63% before we fill the cask.
Okay, that's awesome. That is amazing. Thanks, Fred. Yeah. So, Rich, I mean, you've been to the distillery itself and stuff like that. I mean, we haven't touched on yet, but we do things totally different when we start actually heating the stills itself. We've got a different kind of heat exchange and that kind of thing, where we actually don't actually use traditional fire method underneath the stills.
No, yeah.
Have you seen anything? Have you seen another distillery do this before?
No, never. So I think I've probably been to now 50 or 60 distilleries. I've done tours, 40 or more of them, and other ones I've just popped in the shop maybe or taken a selfie outside. But I've done 40 actual tours, and never once have I seen anybody heat the stills the way that we do. It is an ingenious way of heating it, and I've also never seen anyone with such stylish spirit safes as we do here. So behind Fred, where you can see the two domes of glass there, and you see the spirit and the spirit running through there. It's beautiful. It really is. Fred, perhaps could you tell us a little bit about how the stills are heated and what's different about them to a normal or a typical distillery?
One more time, please.
Oh, sorry. How are the stills heated? How do we heat the liquid inside of the stills?
It's like what you say, a lot of engineering behind it. First of all, we're using heated water. We have a small pellets burner on the outside of the distillery, which heat up water sent in. It's like heating house heating, like you have in the rest of the community, but we have our own little burner outside. But what I think is one of the most success regarding the engineering here is that we are actually saving the pot ale and the wash still, as well as in the spirit pot still, and there's a lot of heats left there after distilling. We are saving that heat, and then we are using heat exchangers. So when we are filling the wash still with the mash, we are actually filling it with like 80 degrees Celsius hot mash, and we're saving a lot of energy that way. So we are, as I said before, we are using and reusing both heat and cold.
Yeah, wow. I think it's definitely the greenest that I've come across so far from the operated there. Which it's not just when I'm doing tastings as well. So we've one of the founding principles of Mackmyra was sustainability, as well as the Swedishness. And I say we've got this big, tall gravity distillery that's this big ticket, showy item to say here we are doing things green, and we're letting gravity take things from one floor to the next. We're not using energy to pump that a product and things around. But it's not just gravity. It's things like this that Fred's describing now, where we're using very green methods throughout the production process as well. It's not just one big thing. It's lots of little bits, and the engineering that Fred mentioned going in behind it. There's a lot of thought and consideration. I think, Matt, it's probably time if we pour Sven's Rook, do we think?
Yes, it's time to pour Sven's Rook. So I'm going to love you and leave you guys. I've got a couple of things I just need to do in the background. Guys, thanks very much for having me on the show, but I'm going to leave it up to you and Fred to finish it off for us, guys. Thanks very much for your time. Enjoy the rest of your show, and don't forget about the offer.
Lovely. Well, thanks very much, Matt. I'll see you in a moment, I'm sure. So I'll just say, everyone watching, if you wonder why Fred isn't going to take a sip of his whiskey, it's because he's not allowed by law. So unfortunately, Fred is limited to nosing his whiskey. But seeing as we've just poured this whiskey and Fred can only nose it, I think it's probably a good idea if Fred is up for it. If I ask Fred what your tasting notes are, what do you think about the nose on this?
Well, first of all, svensk rök, which is the way to pronounce it. You're doing great, Richard, regarding your Swedish. You're getting there.
Okay.
We don't get into pronounce stjärnrök today, but I'll leave that for next time you're coming here. You're doing great, my friend.
Thank you.
Well, this is the svensk rök, the Swedish smoke, is actually one of my absolute favorite whiskeys, all types. First of all, the way when we are smoking the malt, we are using peat that comes just 45 minutes away from the distillery. So it's very local, regional produced peat that we're using. And we're also adding juniper branches from the juniper tree in order to create a little special Scandinavian touch to the smoke. And there is no tar whatsoever in this one. It's more like forest fire, campfire. So yeah. The first thing that hit me when I I smell it, and I smell the smoke to it. It's like being out in the woods with the kids having some barbecuing, and beneath this wonderful crispy smoke, there is a lot of freshness, a lot of fruitiness to it. You can feel the pear, the green sharp apples, some vanillas, some fudge. Yeah, it's actually one of my absolute favorites, and it's a whiskey you can use for all kind of occasions.
Yeah, this is we often find as well on tastings that we do on virtual ones or in person. Something I like to ask is if there's anyone here, and actually asking everyone now that's joining us, if you didn't like peated whiskey before, because I know not everybody is mad for it. But if you like this, please let us know, because quite often we find that this is so different to what a large percentage of people out there think peated whiskey is going to be like. This is so unique and so Swedish. You mentioned using juniper branches in the peat mix that we have, and the peat is a Swedish peat as well. All the ingredients we use are that, but there's thousands of years, if I'm not mistaken, Fred, of Swedish or Scandinavian history of using juniper branches and some other things when drying meat and fish for the winter season to get more flavour in, which I think is just, nobody was saying you can't add things into the peat when we started, so why not make it as Swedish as possible and do something that has thousands of years of Swedish history involved in it. I think it's fantastic. And this Laura there, Laura doesn't usually like peated whiskey, but this is really nice, great, and hello Laura as well. You mentioned barbecue, Fred.
Yeah.
First time my friend had a nose of this, and I always give him the credit for it. He said it knows like a campfire in the rain, and almost at the same time, I said to him, I was thinking like a barbecue, like the next day was like the dew has been on a barbecue, like a sort of like a wet, damp smoke almost, which it doesn't sound very delicious maybe, but it is. For me in particular, I absolutely love the nose of it. So Tom here said, peated whiskey isn't my game in the usual run, but Mackmyra makes it work. Not top of the pile, but a great jam. Thank you very much, Tom. I think that's fair. It's something that non-peated whiskey drinkers can use to actually say, there is a peated whiskey out there that I don't quite mind or I like or whatever it might be, and I think that's great.
A lot of times when I have this tasting experience here at the Whiskey Village, what's pretty common here in Sweden that you are coming man and wife, and actually it's the man in the family that's here and want to try the whiskey, and a little bit stereotype, but the wife always says that I don't like smoky whiskey. I don't like the whiskey my husband got at home. But after each tasting, I used to have like a raise your hand for your favorite whiskey and try to sort out which is the favorite one. And I would say 8 times out of 10, there will be the wife in the couple that actually raises her hand and say that Swedish smoke, the Svenska Öl, is probably the best whiskey they ever tasted, and it's nothing like anything that the husband got back at home. So it's a little bit stereotype regarding male or female whiskey drinkers, but I think this is like a gateway in case you want to try some smoky whiskey. I think this is wonderful.
I think any part that we can play in busting stereotypes like that, I think is fantastic, and it's wonderful that there's a tool in our toolbox where we can do that, and also perhaps introduce people to something new and broaden their horizons as well. Like I said, that my wife never drank whiskey before we met, and then just because I was drinking it so much, not every day, but that's my go-to drink would be whiskey. She started with me, and her favorite whiskey is just anything peated now, and I think part of that in her individual case was because whiskey she tried before all tasted the same, and then when she tried a peated whiskey and got a bit more flavor to it and something that was different to just standard unpeated stuff, she was really, really interested. So to this day, 4 years down the line now, it's just peated whiskey all day long for her. So brilliant. Right, anyone chuck in some comments or questions as we have go through? It's amazing how much Mackmyra can change from on a whiskey. Laura, great, and I think that's a wonderful bit of input there as well. We've got so many different flavours and so many different types of expressions. I think we are, in my experience, and you'll see I've got a few behind me, we are probably one of the most creative whiskey brands out there in terms of creating flavour profiles and different interesting things. So because we've got so many different flavour profiles, I think that gives everyone a good shot of finding something they like. Now, we haven't just got lots of random flavours here and there. There needs to be a theme. You should be able to taste Mackmyra spirit character, the DNA, some regular tasting notes should be present in that most of the range. But with that rule being a rule and a spirit character being present everywhere, there are still lots of directions we can go by using different combinations of casks and all sorts of magic that we can do. Fred, I'll say so that you can go off and get yourself home maybe and actually have a drink of whiskey this evening. I just wanted to say thank you so much to you and David, who's been running up and down the stairs with you, for joining us and for showing us, up and down the distillery as well. So before I let you go, have you got any parting message for the Mackmyra UK family?
Well, I'm so happy to be able to join the show tonight, and I've been looking a little bit in the angle of my view here. So I see a lot of comments coming up in the chat, and see there is not only guys from the UK that join us to this tasting, which I think is wonderful, that we are spreading all over the world with our products, and I think it's great. And hopefully some of you will meet here at the distillery. Today we have talked about our bottles, but you have also the possibility to create your own whiskey and do your own whiskey journey, deciding what kind of cask, what kind of recipe you want, and you actually can come here and fill your cask, and you can also bottling your cask after these 3 to 5 years, which is the common time for the maturation for the whiskey on those small 30-liter casks. So if you have any questions regarding having your own cask, please talk to Richard or Matt or Craig or some of my colleagues in the UK, and they will help you out. And I will personally, if you decide to get your own cask and you want to come here and fill it, I will personally give you a private tour of the distillery as well as the warehouse. That's my promise to you tonight. Thank you very much, Richard, for having me on the show.
Thank you. It's an absolute pleasure. Fred, you're one of my favourite people in the Mackmyra team. It's always an absolute pleasure whenever we get to spend time together and talk as well. And I really appreciate you giving up some of your evening tonight, and David as well, to support us over here and so that the people in the UK, and actually, as you mentioned, lots of different countries in Europe joining us, and the South African or two as well. I think it's fantastic. So thank you for your time. I think I'd like to ask everyone if you could chip in and put in the comments what your favourite whiskies were for the evening as well. I'd be always curious to know as we begin to wrap up. Fred was mentioning there about doing your own cask. I don't want to out anyone in particular, but I know that there's some people in the chat this evening that I'm in talks with about doing something for them. They've got some special plans coming up and want to celebrate it. For anyone else interested, have a look at Mackmyra.co.uk reserve casks, and you can see what Fred was talking about. But as we've got those comments coming in, I'll say goodbye, Fred, and thank you very much for coming to join us. If Fred knows his doing, there we go. Yeah, lovely. Perfect. Right. So if anyone, while we're on the tail end, then if pop into the chat what your favourite were, you put them in order. Let me know what the individual one might have been. And I'm always curious to see what people like. Aberfan09, yes, Spencer Hook. That's lovely. That's I think my favourite for the evening. I usually change between Svensk Ek or Ek and Spencer Hook as well. So I think this evening I'm in a smoky mode, it seems. So that's the one for me. Melvin Bridget, yeah, if you want to, we'll, as Fred said very generously, he'll give people a private tour should you book it. If you have a look at the Reserve Cask program, or email sales@mackmyra.com, somebody over here will be able to help you with that process and give you some advice as we go. So Jacques, I have several Mackmyra whiskies, including Johannson. Fred mentioned Johannson to me earlier, because when I was in Sweden a few months ago, I was unable to pronounce it properly as I did then. Expedition Mac and Go-To one Svensrud. Adam there, Peter Whiskey isn't always favourite, but this is great. Yeah, that's what I was talking about earlier. This is different to other peated whiskies out there. I really do believe that. And I've just discovered a great pairing to Swedish meatballs. Lovely, Adam. Really having a Swedish evening. And then Laura, Mac was my fave in the heat over here. I hope Laura's had a good one this evening, obviously with test results and stuff coming out. I mean, I imagine it's quite a nerve-wracking day for a teacher. Cheers to you and what you do, Laura, as well. Matt, you're back in the game, mate. Hello.
The game, and just to wrap it up and say thanks to everybody for joining us over the last 2 years. It's been a wonderful experience. We will be back with some more innovative shows at a later stage in time, but right now we've got some exciting new products coming out and ranges coming out over the next 2-3 months. So keep a lookout for some new innovative whiskies and finishes that we'll be doing. So we're continuing the tradition of being an innovative whiskey distillery. So yeah, some exciting times for Mackmyra ahead, and I hope that you guys have all enjoyed the shows over the last 2.5 years, but it's definitely not the last one, and we'll hopefully see you guys soon.
Well,
Rich, thanks very much for all your time, mate. It's been really amazing, man. It's been a really fun time with you.
Yeah, we've had a good one. What a journey it's been, Matt. I'd say between with you and I and our other colleagues as well. We've all chipped in, done a lot of work over the last few years while we're doing this. So, brilliant. Yeah. So if there's any more, just to cover any comments that come in there. So Dirk, Mac was one you could drink every second. So look for a special moment. Yeah, brilliant. I'll take that. And then as well, I sounded grim earlier. They were passed. Oh, well done. Well, congratulations. That's definitely cause for celebration then for Laura. So perhaps a breakfast whiskey tomorrow morning as well, just to kick it down. Not unless actually, sorry, to go in to school, and then perhaps not.
I don't think that's a good idea, mate.
any closing remarks? I mean, we've got a deal on as well. Might be.
Yeah, we've got the deal, guys. Yeah, don't forget to use discount code Limousin14 when you check out. Just make sure that you've added any one of the seasonals that we've still got left. That's Johannson and Limousin, and any core range for 40% off. And we'll throw in 4 miniatures just before we dispatch that. So we'll randomize it so you guys get a different flavor of each whiskey and different flavor of each range that we've got. But over and above that, Rich, that's about it, mate.
Cool, brilliant. Oh, I've just actually noticed something from Tom here as well. So, are we going to talk about the limousine, or limousin? I think one's supposed to say. Yeah. So that is French Cognac House finish. We've got someone celebrating. A French oak cognac cask finish, something we've done with Limousin Ferrand. If anyone's tried Caribbean, one of our rum cask finished moment range whiskies before, Limousin Ferrand are the people behind Plantation Rum, with whom we worked to make that. And again, we've worked with them on their House Ferrand cognac. So absolutely delicious cognac as it is. And we've taken some cognac casks, and I think about 30-40% of Limousin is French oak cognac cask. So I think for me, there's a very quick little note for it. A bit of pepper and spice, the same way that Svensk has. Not the same way, sorry, but similar to. But a lot more of velvety and soft, sort of like a velvet pepper and spice on the nose for me. And then the cognac fruits and sultanas, raisins you might expect to get in a cognac cask finish of something. Right at the back end. A little bit on the nose, not so much on the palate, but then on the finish. That's my journey with it. So very much hope you enjoy. Brilliant. Right. Well, Matt, without much further ado, then shall we say goodbye? Thank you very much to everyone for joining. Matt, you're on mute. I don't know if I'll take it.
Bye, everyone. Thanks very much for joining us, and we'll see you soon.
Brilliant. Cheers. Thanks again.
Cheers, guys. Bye.
Yeah. Thank you.